The second weekend of the college football season is in the books. We had some upsets, close finishes, and some really good games. With so many crazy results from the weekend, there were a lot of shakeups in my top 25 this week. So here's how my top 25 looks after the second week of the college football season. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe. It's one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. Also, one final thing before I get to my rankings, this week was kind of disgusting. A lot of top 25 teams really struggled to win, and I'm talking teams that were a 28 to 35 point favorite that were really struggling to put their opponent away. We had some close victories, we had some close games entering the fourth quarter, and overall, there just weren't many teams that really impressed me in week 2. Not much to say on Georgia. They won 48-3 over Tennessee Tech, so they stay at number 1 for me. I got Texas going up to number 2 because they went on the road to the Big House and dominated Michigan 31-12. I mean, outside of maybe the first few minutes of this game, this wasn't ever really close for Michigan. Texas looked like the better team on offense, and they looked like the better team on defense. Quinn Ewers had a fantastic game, and although it's still way too early, he's my early Heisman favorite as of right now. Now, Michigan definitely isn't going to be as good as they were last year, but regardless of how they fare in 2024, going on the road and dominating them and winning by 20 points, that is no easy task. Ohio State had an easy one as they took down Western Michigan 56-0. And that's all I really got on that one. Despite not playing anybody just yet, Ole Miss is 2-0 and they've dominated both games. They took down Middle Tennessee 52-3. Jackson Dart threw for almost 400 yards, and running back Harry Parrish Jr. ran for 165 yards with 4 rushing touchdowns. Now, if you look at the final score, you'll see that Alabama defeated South Florida 42-16, so you'd probably think, alright, they didn't necessarily cover the spread, but it was still a pretty big victory. Well, Alabama was actually on upset watch in the fourth quarter of this game. I mean, it looked like South Florida for the second year in a row was really going to take Alabama to the very end, but the Tide outscored South Florida 28-3 in the fourth quarter, so this game looked like it was out of reach. USC moved to 2-0 in the season as they took down Utah State 48-0. This offense looks as good as advertised, but the fact they held Utah State to only 0 points, that's quite the accomplishment. I get it, USC was a heavy favorite in this game, but Utah State has had some pretty solid teams the last couple of years. Holding a group of 5 opponent is pretty remarkable, especially considering where this defense has been in years past. I said this last week, but if USC's defense is in fact legit, they are a legitimate playoff contender. Miami had an easy one this week as they took down Florida A&M 56-9. Cameron Ward continues his Heisman campaign as he threw for over 300 yards and had 3 passing touchdowns. Tennessee picked up the dominant victory over number 24 NC State as they defeated them 51-10. This game was still pretty close in the first half, but Tennessee just put it into a second gear and completely dominated this Wolfpack team. Nico Iamaleava threw for over 200 yards and had 2 passing touchdowns, while running back Dylan Sampson had over 130 yards on the ground with 2 rushing scores. We know that Tennessee is going to have one of the best offenses in all of college football this year, but their defense was probably who I was most impressed by in this game. Penn State only defeated Bowling Green by 7 points, and they were on upset watch all game. At halftime, Penn State was actually trailing by 4 points, and entering the fourth quarter, this was only a 3-point game. Considering the Nittany Lions were a 35-point favorite at home and they struggled to beat Bowling Green, that is a little bit concerning. Another week, another easy win for Missouri as they took down Buffalo 38-0. I've been high on Missouri all offseason as I think they're going to be a really good team, but we still haven't seen them play a respectable opponent just yet. Before we get to the rest of my rankings, I'd like to share with you guys how you can make the college football season more exciting and even win some money. I've partnered with Underdog Fantasy to bring you this amazing deal. If you download the Underdog Fantasy app and use promo code Harris, they'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. That's right, they're giving you up to $1,000 of free money. You can choose your favorite players from every game and decide whether or not they'll go higher or lower than their projections. So to add a little extra excitement to every game and win some money, make sure to use promo code Harris for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 at Underdog Fantasy. You guys can also sign up using the link in my description as well. This was one of the more exciting games of the weekend as as Oklahoma State knocked off Arkansas 39-31 in overtime. The fact that Oklahoma State ended up winning this game by 8 points is pretty remarkable because Arkansas pretty much dominated this game from start all the way up until the very end. They were leading majority of the way, but Oklahoma State outscored them 24-10 in the second half to send it to overtime. Alan Bowman led the comeback as he threw for over 300 yards with a passing touchdown. I think Arkansas is going to be a lot better than people expect this season, so Oklahoma State has some really impressive victories to begin their year. Utah defeated Baylor 23-12, and although this game was never really in doubt for them, it was a little close after the first quarter. They jumped out to an early 17-0 lead, but after Cameron Rising left with an injury, Baylor slowly kept creeping back into this game. Without Cameron Rising, Utah's offense looks really bad, but at least for them, they have a really good defense that should keep them in a lot of games. LSU picked up their first win of the season as they took down Nichols by 23 points. Although they had a pretty comfortable victory, this was actually a 2-point game in the third quarter. LSU just happened to finish the game on a 21-0 run that made this game look not as close. After nearly losing to Idaho in week 1, Oregon nearly lost to Boise State as they won by only 3 points. The Ducks were a 21-point favorite at Autzen, and they almost fell in this one. I mean, with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, the Broncos had a 7-point lead, but Oregon responded with a kickoff return for a touchdown, and they kicked a game-winning field goal as time expired. I get it, the Ducks are 2-0 this year, but considering both of their games have been really close finishes against teams they should have easily beaten, I'm a little concerned with this Oregon team. Oklahoma moved to 2-0 on the season with a 4-point victory over Houston. I don't know what went wrong in this game for the Sooners because they were a 28-point favorite over the Cougars. And yet, this was a close game the entire way. I mean, for most of the fourth quarter, it was only a 2-point lead for the Sooners. A safety with 2 minutes left gave them a 4-point lead and ultimately the victory, but you were a 4-touchdown favorite at home and you struggled to win. Oklahoma's another team that's a little bit concerning. Kansas State moved to 2-0 with a 7-point victory on the road at Tulane. Stop me if you've heard this before, but Kansas State was on upset watch all game as well. They were trailing by 10 points at the half, and they were trailing by 7 points in the fourth quarter, but 2 late touchdowns from the Wildcats gave them the 7-point victory. Arizona picked up their second straight win to begin the year as they took down Northern Arizona 22-10. Arizona was favored by 37 points in this game, and Northern Arizona was keeping this interesting. I mean, Arizona was trailing by 4 points at the half, and entering the fourth quarter, they led by only 3 points. A touchdown midway through the fourth quarter kind of put this one out of reach for NAU, but Arizona struggling at home as a 37-point favorite. Again, another team this week that just didn't look all that good. Louisville had the easy victory over Jacksonville State, winning 49-14. Tyler Shuck had himself quite the day, throwing for 350 yards with 2 passing touchdowns. This may be a little harsh, but I got Michigan dropping all the way down to here, and the reason is they just haven't looked good at all to start the 2024 season. I didn't think they looked good at all against Fresno State last week, and against Texas, they honestly looked awful. Their offense looks horrific, and I don't know how they're going to get better at any point this year. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, it seems pretty generous still to have them in the top 25. I think the only reason why I'm still giving them that respect is the fact that they did win a national championship last year. I said last week I wanted to have Arizona State inside my top 25 because it was going to be the only opportunity I had to have them ranked inside the top 25 this year. They defeated Mississippi State 30-23, but this game was pretty much out of reach for a majority of the game. Mississippi State just scored a couple of touchdowns late to make this a little bit interesting. I mean, at the half, Arizona State was up 27-3. Cam Skattebo is one of the more underrated running backs in all of college football as he ran for over 260 yards, averaging 8 yards a carry. He also led Arizona State with 3 receptions and 35 receiving yards. Yep, that's right, Arizona State dominated this game from start to finish, in which their quarterback only threw 70 yards. Considering Arizona State was picked to finish last in the Big 12 this year, I think they've looked pretty damn good to start their campaign. They are playing Texas State this week, so there's a chance they can move to 3-0 as they get ready to enter conference play. All I'm saying is, don't sleep on my Sun Devils. Nebraska dominated Colorado, winning 28-10. Now, I'm not quite certain if this is because Colorado's just really bad once again, or if this Nebraska team might be the best they've had in quite some time. Now, if you watch this game, this Nebraska defense was suffocating Colorado all night long. I mean, their offense couldn't do anything against the Cornhuskers defense whatsoever. Dylan Raiola looked pretty solid as well as he completed 23 of 30 passes, throwing for 200 yards with a passing touchdown. I'm not going to fully buy into Nebraska just yet, but man, after the first 2 games, it's tough not to get excited about this Cornhuskers team. During the offseason, there was someone in my comments that said Syracuse was a team to keep an eye on in 2024. At the time, I kind of laughed at it and thought, sure, okay, that's quite the hot take, but maybe they were onto something. Syracuse defeated number 23 Georgia Tech 31-28. It was a great offseason for the Syracuse Orange team as they added a lot of players in the transfer portal, and it's looking like it's going to pay off. Kyle McCord looks like a brand new quarterback as he threw for 400 yards with 4 passing touchdowns. Considering Syracuse has an insanely easy schedule, all I'm saying is keep an eye on this Orange team to potentially make a run in the ACC this year. Illinois knocked off number 19 Kansas 23-17. Overall, this was kind of an ugly game as both offenses didn't look all that great, but it was Illinois' defense that won the game for them. Fully healthy, Kansas has one of the more explosive offenses in all of college football, and this Illinois defense held them to only 17 points and just over 300 total yards. I got Boston College coming in here after their 56-0 victory over Duquesne. That's 2 dominant victories for this Eagles team. Thomas Castellanos threw for over 200 yards with 4 passing touchdowns on only 9 completions. There are quietly some really good teams in the ACC this season. Finishing my top 25, I got the Northern Illinois Huskies, who went into South Bend and knocked off the number 5 team in the country 16-14. This is probably going to be one of the biggest upsets we see in all of college football this season, as Northern Illinois was a 28-point underdog. Everyone was talking last week about how Notre Dame is a legitimate playoff team. They're probably going to run the table and end up in the playoff. Well, I guess we didn't account for the Northern Illinois Huskies. The Huskies are 2-0 on the season, and they have the biggest victory so far in college football, so because of that, I'm ranking them inside my top 25. Well, that wraps it up for this week's top 25. What were your thoughts on my rankings? Was there a team that I had ranked too high, or a team that was ranked too low, or was there a team I didn't include at all? Whoever it is, let me know in the comments down below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. I'm posting college football videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video and my channel with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.